Good morning and welcome everyone to our latest product jam. Today we're going to be talking about one of my favorite topics because it's all about the money. Now I'm sure everyone has already heard the old saying of the money's in the list, but this is only half true because the money is only in the list if you do something with the list. So today we're going to talk about broadcast emailing, some of the tips and tricks and some of the advantages that you get by using our system. Today I have Marty Dickinson helping me to cover the strategic side of email marketing, and Marty is the co-author of Web Marketing All-in-One for Dummies and a full-time web marketer, coach, and business development specialist since 1996. But Marty can be reached at herenextyear.com if you would like to speak directly to Marty about your business and ways that he can help you achieve greater success. Now, if you didn't believe in email marketing, it's unlikely you would be on this webinar. But here's a quick stat that will make any business pay attention. Because 91% of consumers still check their email every single day. And successful, smart companies are emailing every day or almost every day. So what can we do to help you sell more through broadcast emailing? Well, the first thing we're going to do is give you a very advanced system for segmentation and tagging. And the key to this is to make sure that you are speaking to your customers in a way that they want to be spoken to and about the topics that they're interested in. We do this through things like action links, action surveys, product purchases. Now the key is that we don't do this one time. The key to segmentation and tagging is that this has to be an ongoing but automated action. And that's the key. It's all automated. It's hands off. You let the system do the segmentation for you. And what you end up with is just more accurate conversations with your customer, which leads to greater conversions. We want to give you more leverage. Whether you're trying to be a solo practitioner that doesn't want to hire someone but needs to be bigger, or maybe you have multiple employees and you don't want to reinvest in the same content for each and every single salesperson, what our system does is it allows you to leverage off of profiles and the content library and through sales paths so you can turn one effort into multiple uses and multiple opportunities. And with greater integration of live chat, your shopping cart, the CRM, and the ticket system all feeding into one system, you're just inherently going to get a lot more power than the sum of the parts. The biggest problem with having all these systems as separate systems is that none of them are talking to each other. They're not equitably adding to the value of your business. When you integrate all these things and have them all speaking to each other, suddenly the system is much more powerful than just the simple sum of the parts. Now, we've covered segmentation and tagging in a previous webinar, and this has been recorded and posted in our blog. So today we're going to focus a little bit more on leverage. We're going to look at how we can take our profiles, our content library, and our sales paths and really leverage our business up. Now, the first part of leveraging our business is going to be creating profiles. And you can create as many identities as you want for one business or for multiple businesses. The second part is going to be creating our content library. When you use a content library, you have one central location to store all of your emails, SMS text messages, images, email attachments, and documents. And the reason we use a content library is because we want to take one effort. We want to create one piece of content, and we want to leverage this so that every profile and every business in your system can use this piece of content. And you can combine profiles and content to create broadcasts, automated autoresponder sequences, and one-off manual emails. Now, when you take an individual profile that has a person's personalized information, and then you combine it with the content through creative uses of merge codes, all of a sudden you've got one email that has been written that all of your salespeople can use, all of your profiles can use, and you've really leveraged up your effort to write this piece of content and make it really good and make it available for every single person that's involved in your business. Now, doesn't that leverage just smell delicious? So now I'm going to show you the different ways that you can go off and build these emails and use them in a leveraged way, as I've talked about in this presentation. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do whenever we start into our CRM is we're going to have profiles. And the profile is the identity that you're going to use and inject into each of these emails. Now, these things have been covered in detail in other videos, so I'm just going to cover them real quickly. And if you see that we've got Jim Bob, we have Mitch, and the advantage to this is it contains all the information. So what you're going to do is you're going to put in a name just for organizational purposes, who the email is from. In other words, what's going to show up in the from column of the email recipient, who to reply to, Here's where you'll put in the signature, and this signature will be part of a merge code inside your content. You have your CAN spam compliant information, and if you're doing affiliate marketing, you can put in your FTC compliance here. Now, some people wonder about our content library, and they actually want to do it maybe in a more traditional way. And you can do that with our system. You can actually come right into the newsletter broadcast and click on email broadcast, and you can type up your email the same way that you do it in many other systems. So if you just want to come in, type it up, send it out without going through the content library, you certainly can do that. It's just not really the way the system was designed. It's not something that we push because we really want you to use the content library. And frankly, it's just as easy to use the content library because once you have the content library, all you do is you select your profile and then you select your content and you see how it just gets injected right in here. Now, if I wanted to modify this email, I could modify it right on this screen and then I could save it into the content library. But let's talk about the way that we really designed the system. And we've talked about the profiles. Now let's go look at the content library. And again, we have multiple email categories for organization. And these are things that nobody sees but you. Just think of these things as different folders. And now you have email content, you have SMS content, you have document content, you have your double opt-in content. In other words, what emails are you going to send them in order to get them the double opt-in? Here you can store all your attachments for use in your emails. We have a unique feature for third-party emails, but I'm going to skip over that right now because it's kind of a niche feature. And then we have the email images. Now, if you want to create an email with images, you have to host those images somewhere. You can either host them on your server or on your website or wherever you choose to serve them from. Or if you don't want to do that, you can just put them onto our system and then we'll serve them for you. So I'm just going to add a new piece of content into this category. So I'll just click the add button and I'll name it. And again, this is just a name for organizational purposes. This is what will show up in your drop-down window. And of course, you can always put in a merge code if you want to personalize it. So wherever your cursor is at the time that you click these little arrows, that's the merge code that will appear and in the location that it'll appear. And we'll go on to our content side. And just to make it a little quicker, I've got some prepared content. And again, we're going to personalize this, so I'll put in a merge code. And here's where I'm going to put in my signature merge code. Now, the reason we don't put the signature at the bottom of the email is because people are going to want their signature in a lot of different places for a lot of different reasons. One of the primary reasons is to put a PS into your email. So we'll put our signature in there and then our PS. Now, there's a couple other things that we can do. You can see that we have a variety of different merge codes. You can create a custom merge code on the fly. So let's say you wanted a piece of data, like for example, this one, allergies to nuts, to be injected into this email. Well, you can either use the custom merge codes that exist, or you can just create these on the fly. Now, you can do the same thing with action links. And this really is a key to the system. When you're using our system, and you're just using a standard link, what you're not doing is you're not doing ongoing segmentation. You're not using our system to automate the segmentation, use passive knowledge addition to your system, and you're not really using the system to the power that you could be. Okay, so what I want you to do is to try to use the action links in as many emails as you can, because this is where you're really going to get the segmentation and the ability to build a long-term profile of your subscriber list. You can either come in here and use an action link that you've already created, and this will give you a list of them, and just inject these in. And I'm going to put this one here, okay? Or let's say you don't have an action link already prepared and you get to this point and you think, well, I want an action link, but I don't have one. Again, you can create these on the fly. So you'll just come in here, it'll open up the window. You'll create your action link right through this system. And here's where the action links really come into play, because whenever somebody clicks this link, they don't have to opt in, they don't have to buy a product, they don't have to do anything other than click this action link, and now you can put them into one of your sales paths. You can remove them from a sales path. You can tag them, or you can untag them. Now you can do all of these things, or you can do a combination of these things. Of course, doing none of these things wouldn't make sense because then you wouldn't have an action link. But here again, let's say we want to add a tag to a person. We can also create tags on the fly. So if I didn't have a tag for the purpose of this action link, I can simply come in here, I can add a tag to this category, new tag, submit it, and now this tag is available for this action link. And I'll save the action link, close it, and I'll put this new link in, and that's all there is to it. Okay, so now I've created my content. I can put in pictures the same way. If I just want to come in here and add pictures, they would go into my image categories. We've got templates. You can do the same thing with templates, just choosing a template, injecting it right into your content. But this is all it takes to create your content in our system. It's really no different than creating a broadcast anywhere else, other than the fact that we're giving you a central place to put it. You get to leverage this and copy off of it. You get to have different merge codes and creative uses of merge codes to allow multiple people to use this content without having to rewrite it every single time. In this case, I'm just going to save it. And now we're going to come in and create our newsletter broadcast. And I'm going to choose email broadcast. You can choose the test email broadcast, and we have special test email profiles for this specific purpose. You can choose a text broadcast, or you can choose to do an email plus a text broadcast. An interesting strategy here is to send an email and then to follow it up very quickly with a text message telling people that you've just sent them the email. And the purpose of doing this is just to get them to open up more of your emails. So it's a really nice way to improve your open rate. But in this case, I'm just going to send a standard email broadcast. I'm going to select my profile, my content, and you see how it all just injects right in here. I can add an attachment to this email, or one of the things I can do is send conditional emails. So if I send this email out and the email is opened, I can select a new email to send to this person. If the person doesn't open it, I can send them an email. And this, again, is typically used as a way to get a greater open rate for existing content. So if you send an email out with a certain offer with one subject line, but the people do not open that email, one of the strategies is to simply send them the same exact email with a different subject line. Or you can send an email to them if opened and if not opened. Now, the next step is simply to select your list. If you're just going to send it to your entire list, you'd click here. Or if you're going to target your list, now you'd start to target by personal, geographic, functional, and system parameters. Most people are doing it by funnels and tags, and that's probably the most common. So if I want to send only to people that have been in this demo funnel, but I don't want to send to people that are 2 years I don't want to send to anyone that's 2 years old. So this will bring back a search parameter, which will take a positive search and a negative search and combine them. So you can really isolate the group that you're trying to send to. Okay. The next step, I'm going to calculate my spam score. We're going to schedule this to either send it immediately or to a specific time. And this is just a warning to let you know that you are going to send this email. We've had people send them accidentally, so we just injected that. And then the last step is just to hit send. I'm not quite sure what I did to get out of order there, but normally I just keep this in a very strict order and go methodically down from build to audience to spam to schedule. And like I said, I'm not quite sure what I did to get out of order. But anyhow, that's it. That's all we have to do to build a newsletter broadcast. And this is the key and the core to your segmentation. You're going to get segmentation when you bring people into your list. They're either going to buy a product or they're going to come in through an opt-in. And from those opt-ins, we also have the tagging and the sales path segmentation, but that's only one level. Almost everyone can do that, okay? The key to our system is the ongoing segmentation, the ongoing conversation that you're having with your customer base, and to continually modify this and refine it so that you're really speaking to your customer base in a manner that they want to be spoken to. So this is it for the functional side of it. I wanted to get through this quickly, and now I actually want to move on and hand the floor over to Marty and let him talk a little bit more about some of the strategic things about emailing, some of the different techniques, some of the different things that are going on in the market today, and how to take the mechanical side of our system and use it strategically to improve your bottom line.
All right. Well, I wanted to first say, Gary, that was an awesome presentation of an email system. That's like an hour and a half worth of content there, all condensed. So congratulations. It's a tough topic to cover. And whenever I'm on a webinar, either helping out or if I'm just listening, I'm always looking for the $10,000 suggestion. And you already gave it. Now, I've been using this system for going on 4 years now, and I never understood one piece that you presented in the email system, and that was about sending an email to both an email and a mobile device. This is the $10,000 suggestion right here, is to send an email and then follow it up with an email to somebody's cell phone. I do that all the time. When I send an email and I haven't heard back from the person, we're working on a project together, and I need to have an answer back very quickly, I always follow it up with a text. I never thought about doing a higher level using an email system. So that's two things to remember is, number one, to actually start doing that and make it a habit. So you're doing that every time you send out an email to your list, because that's a guaranteed moneymaker right there. And number two, for those of you who aren't using the system yet, this is a great reason why you want to get into the CloudNet 360 system, because there are, I don't know, maybe that system exists in other systems, but I haven't seen it, and I haven't heard anybody even present that topic. So there's your $10,000 suggestion right in the first 30 minutes of our presentation today, and actually 20 minutes because we had some problems up front with the sound, so sorry about that. But let's get into part two here. Now, what I like to do is typically Gary will go over the functional aspects of what we've talked about for presenting today and the real how-to using the system, which everybody, I don't know, in webinar world, people seem to really just kind of gloss over the actual functionality parts of things and how to get things accomplished. So we always like to feature that up front. And then I always come in and I say, all right, take your eyes off the screen and try not to check too much email, but I know it's going to happen. And let's just have a discussion for the second part. And so I'm going to go over a couple of points. I don't have any PowerPoint or bullet points or anything like that. I have one screen that I'm going to show to you when I decide to have Gary give me control of the screen here. It'll be just a couple of minutes. But first of all, I really want to suggest that you consider altering the culture of how you look at email. And this is a cultural thing related to your business. So I think that some people I've talked to and clients I've talked to and workshops that I've attended and just the talk of the town out there seems to be that email is really kind of low on the totem pole of using as promotion. And I think it's because of so many things that have come about that are more sexy, like Pinterest and making YouTube videos. And you can just go down the list. You hear about new things every week coming out, and we have to go try those, and it takes us away from emailing. There's talk about building a list and things like that. I think that's in the top discussion, but there's just not a lot of discussion about outgoing email. And this is really where the money is. I mean, I've heard it said so many times from stage that sending email is like your ATM. And I like that example because it really is. And I just kind of think that saying has kind of gotten washed out over the years. But it's true. I mean, if you really want to bring in an amount of sales within a predicted amount of time, send out a broadcast email to your list, and it definitely works. So I just kind of like to challenge you to start changing that culture, get back to email, build your list, not for the sake of building your list, but for the sake of eventually you're going to be sending out broadcast emails. So I just wrote down a couple of notes as Gary was talking, and you're going to need to take notes because I don't have screens and PowerPoint put together or anything like that, because again, this is more discussionary. If we were to talk on the phone, that's how the phone call would go. So that's kind of how I like to present things. So the first thing, when it comes to the time where you want to actually send out an email that's going to sell something, you really need to plan for 3 emails, because people just don't typically respond to just the first email. And I have a little formula that I use when I'm really actively trying to get people to go buy something from an email that I send out. And the first one is an intro. The first one, of course, talks about the offer, and that's what I call it, the intro to the offer. And the second one is a re-intro. And this is typically the next day. Sometimes I'll even send something out early morning, and then sometime about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I'll send out my re-intro. And that's to get people thinking about it again. And the third one is the most important of all, and this is where most of the sales come from if you do it right. And that is called answering a comment. Because if you send out those 2 emails, guaranteed you are going to get a reply from somebody that asks a question. And that's what you use in your third email. Oh, I just got this email. I was sending these out this morning. You probably got the email that I sent out. And this was the question that Joe raised. I just thought it was important enough that everybody needed to answer it. And thanks, Joe, for asking the question. I'm going to give you a special gift. Just to let people know that, hey, you really do have other people on your list. So I just like to give that little formula. Try to avoid thinking that your sales email has to be just the first email that goes out, and that's it. I don't want to burn out my list by sending more than 1 email. You're not going to burn out your lists when you do appropriate testing. So that's really another thing that I'd like to grow the culture of, is to hopefully inspire you to do testing with emails. Now, one thing that hasn't changed in the, almost 20 years I've been doing this, is that your email list, once you get up to about 900, there's some kind of magical number about 900, that once you get your list to that size, that's where you really start making money from your list. It's just a law of numbers, and I know people have made fortunes from having 300 or 400 people on their list. But for the majority, and for the majority of topics and niches and things like that, it's about 900. So you really want to build your list to get up to 900. And once you do, then you have a real good testing format too. I like to use 100 emails as a test. So I'll send 1 email to 100 people on my list, and then I'll send another email to 100 other people, and then whichever one performs better, I might even wind up sending a third just to make sure, but to another 100. But then I use the winning email to send out to everybody. So there's a lot to say for being patient. Testing only takes a day. I mean, you'll know your results based on what you send out. So don't think that because you're going to do testing that you can't do an email that has good timing. Timing is important with email as well. So that's one of the other points I wanted to bring up. I have actually 8 things that I wrote down. We'll see if I get through them all. But at the same time, I'm answering a lot of questions. I know just talking to people in general about email, same questions kind of come out all the time. Like, when is the best time to send an email? When's the best day to send an email? And both of those questions are going to be answered for you by testing. With one of my websites, I've determined that it's just a complete waste of time to send an email to that particular list on any day other than Saturday. That's the only time I send to these guys, and that's about a 16,000 person list. And I always send in the morning, about 9 or 10 or 11 o'clock. How did I find that out? Through testing. So testing is very, very important. Oh, by the way, Gary, I love where you presented the tags on the fly. Oh my gosh, that is such a lifesaver. So I just wanted to thank you for adding that. It goes to show CloudNet 360, they're always adding new functionality, new features. That's a good one. I really appreciate that. That'll be a big help.
That's a nice time saver. It's one of those things that we actually had discovered because, of course, we use our own system to promote our business, to grow the business. And we ran into the same obstacle of getting 90% of the way through an email and discovering that we were not having the tag or not having the action link that we wanted for that particular email, and then having to save the email, then go create them and then come back. So we just put that in as a way to shortcut the system and do it on the fly and just make everyone's life more convenient.
I like shortcuts. Here, I'll give you a shortcut right now. How's that? I'm show my screen and just show this one website that I wanted to show to you. This is one that I don't promote very much anymore. It's been out there for a long time. Let me get to it here. It's called Website Waves, websitewaves.com. Whenever I come up with something that I want to remember personally, I just kind of stick it out onto this website. And I've been adding emails that have come into my email that I've been opening. So one of my email accounts, my main HereNextYear.com email address actually gets, I don't know, like 2,000 emails a day. It's just absurd. I purposely don't have spam filters set up with that account. I want to make sure that I don't miss any leads that come in, and yet still, I'm on every list there is. When I sign up for a list, I always use Marty at HereNextYear.com. So you can add that to your address book too. Fine, everybody else has it. But the idea is that whenever I see an email out of a barrage of all those emails and I actually open it, I have to think to myself, why am I interested in opening that particular email, but yet I can erase, 300 emails at a time that I can just glance at so quickly, and I know that it's spam and I don't have interest in opening that email. So a lot of people talk about test your headlines and use creative headlines and things like that. So here's a shortcut for you. Try some of these headlines. Just one simple trick, and then add your topic in there instead of what I have. Avoid, put your topic in there, just fill in the blank. One weird, and then what's the action that you want to replace that with. So just kind of play around with those and try them out. Real good shortcut for you and test. I'm somebody that just likes to, once I find out something that's worked for me, I just like to share it. So there's your hope. Maybe that's one of your $10,000 suggestions right there, because we're always wanting to increase our open rates, right? The next thing about testing that I wanted to reveal, and I think this is one of the mistakes that I see a lot of people doing, and that is avoiding setting up multiple email accounts. What I'd like to suggest that you do is set up an email account at Yahoo, at MSN, at Gmail, simply for testing, and even AOL. If you come across a rogue email system that you find out somebody's using, add an email account there, so that when you make your email, you go down to, there's two ways. At the bottom of the CloudNet 360 system where you're adding your content, you'll see a little test email button, so you can send it there. What I do is I put the email addresses into my own CRM and then tag them as being my test emails. So now I can just pull them up as tagged. The second I can send those emails out to my test email. You didn't think of that one, did you, Gary?
No, not at all.
See, I have to keep asking him questions because otherwise he puts himself on mute. But I like to keep you involved in the conversation, Gary. All right, so the other one related to that is always set up a couple of emails on your phone, on an iPad, some kind of mobile device that you have, some kind of tablet, so that you're always testing. Every email you send out, you need to do this. You need to send out all those emails that I just suggested, and also your mobile devices before you send to your list. And there are two reasons that I say that. Number one is for formatting, of course. You want to make sure that it comes across well on those devices. But the second one is because I am at fault, probably more than most, but I forget to add links. I'll write my email, and then all of a sudden I'll have an action link that I'll want people to take, and I'll just forget to add the thing, and I won't notice it until I read it in a test email of a live email going out. So, so make sure to do that. Another mistake that I'm seeing people use, and it's probably related to that, is over-design. Try not to over-design your emails. Now, the CloudNet 360 system, the way that it produces emails is always in an HTML format, but yet you can just write a message in text form. It's being delivered in an HTML format. You can make an email that's pretty darn close to just text. And use design, that's fine, but just don't go overboard. I'm just seeing I was working with a guy this morning that sent a sample email to me, and I don't want to show it to you, but it's just too much. There's just too much images and trying to tell me 25 different things to look for. I'm not going to spend a half an hour looking at this email. Nobody is. So just be careful with over design, because it's tempting for designers, especially if you're, I know of one agency that clients pay them $1,000 a month to produce one email every week using their system, and they produce an HTML beautiful email for them. And I'm like, well, what are your open rates? Oh, we're somewhere around 10 to 15%. I'm like, really? That's just horrible. So just be careful about that. Almost through my section here, about another minute and a half. But I want to cover the last couple of things. Number one is add components for text-only email. People who are receiving email in text-only mode, especially your links. This is one of the biggest mistakes I see people make with email, and I see it every day, and it just drives me nuts, is that they only have a link with an HTML link to whatever they want me to do next. And what I've discovered that works really well is I'll have the link, and then underneath that I'll say, or copy and paste this URL into your browser address window. So then I paste the whole URL, or I get a tinier URL. There's lots of tricks with making smaller URLs for people. That's a different topic. But the point is, always give both. Give a link for people that like to click, and copy and paste your URL in there for where you want people to go. And then finally, include a link to the HTML version on your website. So whatever you send out by email, you might have to get with your developer on this, because you might not want all those emails to be visible to the world. So you might want to privatize them, even password protect them. There's all kinds of ways you can do that. But whatever you put out on an email, especially when you do get into the fancier design stuff, always have a link to that HTML version that's on your website. So if images are coming out weird looking, or people for some reason can't open them, at least there's a link that they can go to that will open as standard HTML. So that's what I wanted to cover. The whole email controversy is, you'll hear it, don't let people sway you into believing that email is dead. I love that statistic, Gary, that you brought in at the beginning. It was, what did you say, 91%, I think it was? 91%, yeah, I wrote it down. Check email every day. I'd be curious to see what percentage of those people check email first. When they sit down at a computer, when they pick up their phone, what's the first thing that they do? They check their email. I mean, I still do. I check my email, and then, of course, I'll go to Facebook and and all those other places. But email is still first. It's still primary. And if you send content that is important enough, people are going to open the darn thing. And that's the chance that you get. So,
yeah, that's a real good point. In fact, if just anecdotally, if you look at many articles about efficiency and how to improve your productivity at work, the first thing they tell you is don't open up your email. And the reason they emphasize that so much is because so many people do that as their first activity of the day. They get into work, they open up their email, and then they get sidetracked because of the topics in the email, or the content in the email. It pulls them into a different agenda other than the agenda they should be on. So, of course, as email marketers, what we want to do is get that email in front of them and get them onto our agenda and off their agenda, and get them doing what we want them to do. So there's a couple other things that I talked about in the presentation that I'd like to just expand on a little bit more. And one of them was the email frequency. And I put an example up there, and I know it was hard to read, but it's one of the things that I get all the time is a email from a company called Performance Bike. And I've talked about this in the past, but if you look at what these companies are doing, the smart marketing companies, they are emailing a lot. They are not emailing once every month so that I don't kick them off the list. They're hitting me every single day with their emails. And, if they're sending me garbage emails, then I'm going to get rid of them. But if they're sending me things that I care about, that I'm interested in, of course, not only do I not kick them off, I open all their emails. So, even though I'm getting commercial emails from a retailer, I still probably open them 50% of the time just because it's a hobby, it's something I'm interested in, and they're always sending me different unique things. Right. So when you're sending out to your list, make sure that you're doing this segmentation. Make sure that if you have a high tier product and a low tier product, you're marketing to your high tier clients and you're marketing to your low tier clients and not flipping them. Another example I like to use is in the health industry. If you have a nutrient or some sort of supplement, you might have one for weight loss and you might have one for performance enhancement. Well, the people that are high performance athletes really don't want to get emails from you about how to lose 20 pounds. It's very unlikely. They're already, fit people. What they want to do is to be able to run faster, jump higher, ski longer. Right. So it's just one more reason you have to do the segmentation. You have to know who you're speaking to and speak to them in the proper method. So
that's great. And can I piggyback just on that?
Go ahead.
I really like your example of the company that you get emails from every day. I do too. I get some people at least every other day. I don't know anybody that really sends to me every day, but every other day, and I look forward to those emails. I particularly like to get emails that announce new blog posts from certain people, because I know that certain people really go the extra mile when they add a new blog post. You want to go visit it, and I always do. So there are I think there's a personality that has to come through in your emails, and you earn that clickability. You earn that reputation that when you put something out there, oh, there's that email coming in from Gary again. I need to open that up because it's going to be worthwhile. And the thing that goes along with that is that you need to develop confidence that you are producing content that you've put your blood, sweat, and tears into and made it the best that it can be. You have to believe in your own content before other people are going to believe in that content too. And the reason I bring that up is because there's going to be a time, if you have 30,000 people on your list, there's going to be a time eventually when somebody replies to that email and they say, why the hell are you sending me email? Where did you get my email from? What list is this? Who are you? And you cannot take that stuff personally. You can't take it personally. You're going to want to reply to them, and you're going to want to call them on the phone and beg forgiveness. Don't do it. Just remove them from your list unless it's a really important person that for some reason has just forgotten about you. It can drain you. Psychologically, it can drain you to try to chase those emails. You can write back and say, I apologize, I removed you from the list as of now. Good luck. Sorry again. And that's it. Let that be the end of it. You're going to have other people that just unsubscribe too, and you can't take offense by that, but you do need to start. If all of a sudden you send out an email and you lose 20% of your list, well, gosh, what did I do? So you really have to analyze that and make sure that you don't do something like that again. And the segmenting really comes into play, because if you send out segmented emails instead of trying to be everything to everybody in a single email, your unsubscribes are going to go way down, and because they're so segmented. That's so important and very rare. That's why the CloudNet 360 system is just, that's a really good email system just for that one component alone.
Well, you gave me a good segue, Marty, because that was my next point. When we look at deliverability problems, the typical customer will call up and tell us that they can't get their emails to go through, right? Our deliverability is no good. Their emails aren't getting through to half their customers, and, there's a problem with the system. So what we do is we go through and we analyze, what they're sending, who they're sending it to. We look at the URL that they're sending it, because of course they put in, maybe they're serving images from their own URL, or maybe they're putting in their own URL inside the content. There's a lot of variables to email. So at the end of the day, what we find is that there's usually a whole lot of salesmanship going on, or there's some content that could be considered inappropriate. Okay. And oftentimes it's not, right? So it's just that people will use certain words that the spam filters don't like. And one of the simplest ways, and what I think is a strategic way to use email, is not to try to put everything in your email. So one of the things I'd like you to go off and do is to see how short you can make your email. See how little content you can put into your email, and use your email as a way to drive people back to your blog. And inside your blog, lay it on thick. That's where you'll use all those proven trigger words, the step-by-step, the systems, the provens, the guaranteeds, all the things that if you put them into your email, they work for salesmanship, they're proven, but they're also proven to get your email blocked by spam filters. And the same thing, we've got customers that are in lifestyle, they're in fitness, they're in diet. Those are all topics that the spam filters will kill off. So instead of trying to put that content inside your email and then trying to find tricky ways to evade the spam filters while still trying to get your sales message through, just don't do it. Just take your email, shorten it up, use it as a method to drive people back to your blog, and a couple good things happen. You get to use all the salesy words, all the proven trigger words that get people to react and take action, and you get people back to your website. And if they're on your blog, there's a good chance that not only will they take time to read one article, but they may read a second and a third, and may actually stumble upon something that wasn't your original intent of driving them back to your blog, but they still took some action that worked to your favor. So that's the second tip.
Well, I think we should go to questions.
I've just got one more to go.
Because I want to watch it again.
I've got one more quick one, and that has to do with images. Folks, keep in mind that many of these email images that you think are going out to your recipients, and you've got these fancy templates that are highly complex, they don't make it. Google, Gmail, they've by default stripped all your images out. And it used to be not too inconvenient to change your default, but now it's much more inconvenient to change that default back to getting those images in to your emails. And the reality is most people do whatever the default is. So if Gmail is giving them an email account with images set by default to off, there's a good chance they've just left it that way. So if you're going to put images in to dress up your email, make sure that you put them in such a fashion that if those email images are stripped from the email, that the email still looks appropriate. You don't have images that relate directly to the message. When the images are gone, the message is broken. Or you don't want to have your images as part of your structure that when the images get stripped out, your whole email structure falls apart. Simple thing to think about, put it at the top, put it at the bottom, put it in the middle if you want. But if those images disappear, make sure that your email still looks good and communicates properly.
And that's reinforcement too for adding an HTML version of the email on your website. So you can have just a simple link that says, can't see this email, or can't, because there's so many email clients out there. An email client is what you use to open your email. There are just so many different variations. It's hard to be perfect for every one of them. There's always going to be somebody that an image just kind of looks skewed or doesn't show up right. So it's worth it to just go that extra mile, especially for an important email, and make an HTML version of it, or at least a PDF that you could have a link to a PDF to see the whole thing.
Right, good point. So let's move on to some of these questions. And the first one I'll take is there additional cost for emails and SMS? The answer is it depends. So if you look down here, we have all the pricing. So if you build up your list, you get 5,000 records included for free. But if you build up your list beyond that 5,000 point, then there is a $45 add-on charge. So there is usage charge that does get added in. The second thing is...
I don't think you're showing your screen. I changed Center for you, but I don't see your screen, so I don't think people do too. So
okay.
When you said, go right here...
Okay, sorry. So this is in everybody's CRM. It's clearly posted down here under management. It says CRM pricing. It's a menu item. All you have to do is click on this. It'll pull up the pricing, and it'll show you the price adder at every single level. This is pretty standard. Every single autoresponder company does this, because it's based on usage. Typically, though, quite frankly, no one cares. Once you get past 5,000 people on your email list, you're pulling in so much revenue from that email list that the $45 is insignificant rounding error. Now, with text messaging, people have become accustomed to free text messages on their cell phones, but with commercial text messaging, it's not the case. You do have to pay I think it's 4 cents per text message. And again, that's listed in our system. So there is a per message fee on text messaging. There is less of a fee on emailing. Emailing is pretty darn close to free.
Well, I think the numbers answer for themselves too. I mean, that's a great opportunity to segment your list, try a small test to say even 50 people or 75 or 100 people that have a very specific need for something you've come up with as a product, and send out to them through the email system, and then follow that up with the text message. And yeah, you're going to have to pay for it, but just work with the numbers, because I mean that is such a powerful way to get people to check their email, is by sending a text message. When somebody sends a text message to me, I mean, I go look at the email immediately. I don't even wait. It's not just a matter of opening or not. It's like, oh my gosh, they sent me something that's really important. I need to go check it out right now. It's so much more personalized than even email. So I mean, I'm going to test it. I've been using this system for almost 4 years now, and it just never dawned on me to even think about that as a feature. And that just goes to show this whole web marketing thing is always about learning new things, trying new things. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I learned something today. So try it, test it, run the numbers, and see how it works. That's what answers the question, is if it's gonna work for you, and if it's something that you should spend money to do. But I'm thinking 4 cents. I mean, that's a lot better than paying for Google AdWords.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, that's really well spent promotion money there.
So another question, is it best to just not include images? Images can add to the look of your email. Images can be good, and sometimes images can be bad. If you think about when you send an email to your best friend, you put an image in there. Sometimes that image will enhance because it makes the email look more professional. On the other hand, sometimes the email will make it look more commercial, and people feel less likely to respond to a commercial email than one sent to a friend. So this goes back to Marty's original point, which is you need to test these things. What you need to do is follow his advice and say, look, I'm going to send out one email with the image, and I'm going to send that to this segment of my list, and I'm going to send the same email to another segment of my list and not put the image in, and see what you get a better response from. And then you'll know whether you want to put the images in or not. So images aren't necessarily good. They're not necessarily bad. They may be good. They may be bad. My main point with images is to just make sure that your email doesn't fall apart, that all your structure doesn't fall apart, that your message becomes incomplete if that image doesn't make it through the filter.
And don't fall into the trap of putting an image in an email just because you think you have to. I mean, you have to be careful with images. You either have to take a photo yourself or buy a photo that you definitely have rights to. And I know there are some free places out there for images, but you have to just be really careful that those are common, what is it called? Commons, I think, something like that. Anyway, so that you have rights to use that image in a sales process, because you can get in trouble for stuff like that. So I always suggest taking your own photos, but make sure that the image that you use is related to what you're sending an email out with, because otherwise it's very distracting. I don't even remember the last time I sent an image of any kind in an email, and if I was to send one now, my list, I'd get people that have followed me for years saying, who wrote this email? Because it's just not part of my normal procedure. It's not part of my personality to send photos and images in the emails. They're almost always just plain old text, like I'm writing from me to you, one person. And that, just for me, that's what I've tested to find that I get the best response from.
Here's another follow-on question to the last one. Is it best to forego CloudNet 360 until I develop a list and a list of at least 5,000 people? Well, no, that's kind of backwards. What you want to do is you need a system like CloudNet 360 in order to build your list and start your segmentation on day one, at the point they enter your list. If you had a 5,000 person list, you'd already have a very significant, very profitable list in most cases. So as Marty was saying, once you get up to even a couple hundred, people have built entire businesses off a couple hundred person list. And especially when you've got a higher ASP, you really don't need 5,000 people. And it might be where 5,000 people is never even realistic as a list size. If you're into a high-end coaching business, you probably will never have 5,000 people on your list. And if you do, they are 5,000 people that are not in your true target market, right? Because there probably isn't that many people that can afford that ASP at the price point you're selling. So again, there's a lot of variables to it, but a 5,000 person list is a very substantial list and should generate a sizable level of profit.
You need to factor in churn rate. That's the term in the industry, churn rate, which is the amount of time it takes for your entire list to have to be recreated because people die, email addresses get removed, people lose their jobs, their email disappears, or they're just wanting to be removed from your list. And so there's all kinds of reasons that people will fall off your list. And the averages that I'm hearing is that most people lose most of their list between, it depends on the list size, but it's usually about 6 to 14 months. So if you were to do no outbound marketing to get people into your list for that amount of time, that's how long it would take for just about all of those emails to just not be any good at all. Again, if you go too long without sending to your list, people are definitely going to forget about you. So that churn rate accelerates because people are not getting anything from you. So there's absolutely when we work with people for getting a website going, for example, the first thing I talk to them about is what can you come up with that will cast a wide net and be attractive to everybody that comes to your website. The highest majority of people, what are they going to, why are they coming to your website in the first place? But also, what will attract them to give their email address to you? Will it be a white paper, a video that you can produce? There's all kinds of things you can give away. A coupon, it could be something as simple as that. What is it 90% of the people might have interest in when they get to your website? And that's what starts building the list. It really starts with that. So don't wait to start building your list. Do that immediately from the beginning.
All right. We are at the top of the hour. We're actually 9 minutes past. We ran a little bit long because we had a little technical snafu at the beginning. Nice way of saying I screwed up at the beginning. So I think what's that?
We will forgive you.
Yeah.
This was fun.
Right. So I want to bring the webinar to an end. And you know what? I don't normally do this, but I see we've got a person attending that I'd like to do a quick little shout out for Chris Coney. Chris had put on a real nice webinar for us in the past. And I'll tell you from firsthand experience, Chris is an extremely bright guy. He really knows his stuff when it comes to sales funnels. And I don't know if he's taking on clients anymore at this point. I'm not really following that part of his business. But if he is, and you need help with a sales funnel and how to build a tripwire, how to just route people through your sales paths inside of CloudNet 360, then Chris is a real great resource for that. So having said that and given a free plug, I'd like to thank everyone for showing up and for participating and for throwing some great questions at us. Marty, as always, I appreciate you taking the time to join us here.
You're welcome. Great to be here, as always.
All right, everyone have a great day and a productive week. And, one last thing. If you guys haven't used the action surveys yet, go off and do it. You will be amazed at the things you learn from sending a survey, asking just a few short questions, and leave one question as an open-ended question with just a text box in it. And you'll find some amazing things that people write in that survey and give you just incredible feedback, things that you never thought that people thought about you or your website or your business. So that's my last tip of the day. Go do an action survey. It's a really good tool.